Good morning, sunshine. That's Lucy. Did no one feed you? You were fed. I know, look. You wanted to be on camera today. How great. Oh, I forgot to turn my air conditioner off. I better go do that real quick. Lucy. Come on. I know, right? All right, what did I miss? What's up, Andrew? How's it going? Good to see ya. Wolfster, howdy, Ron. Love the Lucy dialogue today. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Good to see everybody. And I'm over on my Twitter, so I had a poll about whether or not I should respond to comments on YouTube. Please do vote on that poll. See, here's the thing for me. I don't respond to many comments on YouTube because we interact here. This is an interactive show. We interact here. I talk to you guys. And that's kind of how I do it. So I don't really respond to many comments. But every now and again, I'll see something that I want to respond to. And what's up, Extinction Ritual? So I was thinking, should I do a stream where I respond to that stuff? That's my question. And so please do vote on that. I'm looking at the thing now. We're at about, let's see how we're doing. We're early, too. It's still not even 10 yet. Let me see what the poll's at right now. 60% yes, 40% no. I know we had a weird thing with the playback yesterday, too. Alright, it says here we only got 7 watching. So I guess people are slow today. You could just record vids in response to a particular comment and release them over time. Let patrons get early access, stuff like that, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. I was thinking of doing it as its own thing. Like, I don't want to do it as a separate thing. Like, I wouldn't make it part of this stream, because we already do a lot of stuff here, and we don't get to everything anyway. So my thing is, it would be a separate stream, like at a random time, where I would just respond to different comments. Kind of like, somebody suggested I call it like a mailbag day or something like that. Obviously, it's not actual mail, because it's just comments on YouTube. But, you know. So anyway, we'll see how the poll works out. If it works out, and you guys are for it, Like if the poll wins, I will, I'll do it. And if the poll doesn't win, I won't. Which, I can understand why some people don't want that. I don't like e-wars at all. I don't like engaging in the comment section. I think it seldomly leads to anything productive. I prefer this, where I can respond to you live on a stream. I think it's a much better way to interact. So I can see why some people were tweeting me and they were like, just stay away from comments in general. Just stay away from them. But the truth is engagement does help. Even engagement like that. So, yeah, we got 15 now. So we still got a little bit. Andrew, hey Ron, I am planning an event for Constance and Jennifer Kerlin, Greens in Ohio and Michigan candidates. If we can cover some or all of the travel expense, would you like to come and speak? What do you want me to speak about? Howdy, Ron. I'll try to get out to your Pittsburgh show, seeing it's only like 6-7 hours from my East Coast base. Sure, come on out if you're interested in a Black Friday road trip to Pittsburgh. Please do come on out. Where are you based? Magnetic Perturbation. Magnetic Perturbation. That's a fun screen name. They're not screen names. I call them screen names because I'm old. Extinction Ritual, the comments are a horrible forum for conversation. I do agree. I do agree. So that's why I put the poll out, because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure. So yeah. Up to 25. All right. All right, welcome to Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. Good to see y'all. Oh, and we're on. So, here's something I want to talk about. So, the hearing's still going on for Cavanaugh. And, you know, this is one of those things. When it was Garland and Obama was president, the Republicans did everything they could on the defense, right? If this was a game of football, the Republicans were blitzing. They were double covering. They were throwing illegal blocks when they had to. They were using strategic timeouts. They were faking injuries. They were managing the clock. They were doing everything. Now it's the other way around, and the Democrats don't even put a defense on the field. And yes, they're saying nice things at the hearings. They're saying passionate things at the hearings. They're using an opportunity to basically subtly campaign for 2020. That's what Cory Booker's doing. But they could not show up for roll call. They could force them to be dragged in. They could plead for waiting until the midterms. All these things they could be doing, they're doing none of that. And if ever there was a time to use Russiagate to our advantage, this is it. Yeah, you know, why... You hear about Russia 24/7 on cable news. And how Trump's a traitor, this is treason. You hear about it 24/7. If ever there was a time for Democrats to use that as a political football, how is this not it? How is this not it? To say, we have a traitor-in-chief. He shouldn't have a say in our court pick. This is a tainted process out the gate because this president shouldn't be here. How are they not using that politically? If ever there was a time. And this is why a lot of progressives, myself being one of them, show a lot of skepticism towards Russiagate. Because we've only seen negative effects from it. When it comes to Silicon Valley monitoring social media platforms, when it comes to people being blocked and people being shut out from Twitter, and no, I'm not referring to Alex Jones. That's happening. But when it comes to actual, why don't the Democrats use this as a political football? It's not happening. And when is there? How is that not even being mentioned? How? This is from the Washington Post. So we all know what happened yesterday. They dropped 42,000 pages of documents. And it was sent to them the previous night. Why? Because they don't want people reading it. But, despite all this, Cavanaugh, 53, has a good chance of being confirmed this month. But he faced tough questions. That's all they talk about, the tough questions he faced. So I guess my question, why? Why isn't there a defense on the field? And how? I mean, if ever, what am I missing? What am I missing? If ever there was a time to bring up Russiagate, the thing that cable news has talked about pretty much nonstop for over 2 years now. If not now, when? And if there's one time where this could actually use... I mean, that's the thing. There's some people, they defend Russiagate because they say, well, it's hurting Trump's agenda. Is it? Is it? I just see it hurting independent media. I see it, I see it, people throwing McCarthy smears out there. Which, by the way, that's how they stopped the labor movement the first time. By the way. McCarthyism was the first time, that was the first time they stopped the labor movement. So we're seeing history repeat itself. So why aren't they doing that? Why aren't Democrats doing that politically? I'll see what you guys are saying. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing something. Joseph says, the hearings are a load of BS. There is nothing particularly productive there. Both sides grandstand in an attempt to look like proper politicians. Exactly. Jennifer says, wow, Ron never thought about that. Magnetic perturbation, we're talking Globetrotters versus Washington Generals. Chris, because Russiagate is political theater for grandstanding, distracting, and pumping up the military budget. I mean, how can anyone take this seriously at this point when it's like, if ever there was a time, now's the time. Now's the time to bring up the fact that, oh, we don't have... This is a heist president. Meanwhile, that's not even being mentioned. All right, so we have a story about it. This is from Susan. And this might be breaking. We'll see. Kavanaugh hearing erupts as Democrat Leahy accuses nominee of receiving stolen emails and Republicans of hiding proof. The confirmation hearing for Donald Trump's nominee to the Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, erupted Wednesday as Senator Patrick Leahy accused Kavanaugh of receiving stolen emails from his office during confirmation hearings held for nominees of the George W. Bush administration. Leahy extensively questioned Kavanaugh about emails that were stolen from Democrats by Republicans operative Manuel Miranda in 2002. Leahy suggested that Kavanaugh may have received stolen emails and asked a series of questions which received variations on "I don't recall." Leahy then referenced the trove of emails that the committee's GOP chairman, Senator Chuck Grassley, has kept in a secret file that his Democratic colleagues are not allowed to question Kavanaugh about. Now, when you worked at the White House, did anyone ever tell you they had a mole that provided you with secret information related to nominations? I don't remember the reference to a mole, which sounds highly specific, but it's common, I think, for everyone to talk to each other at times and share information. So you never received information from an email from a Republican staff member claiming to come from a spying... So you never received information from an email from a Republican staff member claiming to come from a spying on the Democratic poll. That's claiming to come from a spying on the... Wow. I'm not going to rule anything else, Senator, but... So what's really important here is not the fact that this guy is a terrible candidate that doesn't represent public opinion at all. And that what we're told 24/7 on the media is that Trump is a tainted president. We're told that 24/7. That he won because of some Twitter and Facebook ads from Russia. The issue is not that. The issue here is that this guy might have gotten some emails that hurt Democrats. This is what causes the eruption. Not that Democrats refused to show up because they wanted public opinion represented. Not that Democrats used some political tactics similar to what Mitch McConnell did. Not that Democrats screamed at the top of their lungs because Barack Obama was denied a pick that was rightfully his. But because there may have been some emails. Is this anything more than theater? This is not hardball. This is smoke and mirrors. And if this was the other way around and the Republicans were fighting the Democrats on a pick, the Republicans would be winning. They took it from Barack Obama, and Barack Obama accepted it. Why? Because they thought for sure they were going to win in 2016. Emails. That's what it is, emails. It's the only outrage there is. All right, this one comes from the Convo Couch. Contemporary liberalism's worst idea yet. The bar's pretty high. Let's see what this is all about. This is an opinion piece by Jacob Bacharach. I don't know anything about Jacob Bacharach. Not familiar with his work. Ideas are dumb. Not ideas generally. People have good ones all the time. You probably have a few yourself. I mean, okay, all right. So, ideas. David Remnick is the editor of The New Yorker. He is most notable for his belief that George W. Bush, whom he assured us that he understood to be an absolute idiot, nevertheless should have been given the green light to blow up Iraq. All right, that's a bad idea. In a better world, we would carve those words on a placard and hang it around Remnick's neck, ouch, as a warning to those who may encounter him among the herds of migrating thought leaders. In this fallen one, he is still running a prestigious magazine and organizing popular symposiums. For this year's New Yorker Festival, he invited, and then was forced to disinvite, Steve Bannon, the president's former campaign manager and the most malignant pile of week-old polo shirts this side of a flood-damaged Brooks Brothers. I like to say Steve Bannon looks like a person made of Play-Doh and gin. The invitation was as confounding as the disinvitation was inevitable. Surely Remnick must have expected it. Bannon is a notorious white nationalist and narcissist, as well as a colossal bore. I agree with all those things. I suppose, in keeping with the general tenor of middle-brow intellectualism so prevalent at these sorts of confabs, the latter two qualities outweighed the first. Okay. In all likelihood, Remnick did not actually anticipate the backlash. He may have genuinely believed that his genteel audience was unaware of one of the most profiled and interviewed political figures on the planet. Okay. So, The New Yorker, and if this is your first time hearing this, I'll catch you up. The New Yorker invited Steve Bannon to a festival they were having, and then they disinvited him because a bunch of people were pretty upset about it, and reasonably so. I don't think it's appropriate for someone like a Steve Bannon to be invited to something like that. And some people were in defense of Steve Bannon, like Malcolm Gladwell tweeted, like, it's supposed to be a festival of different ideas. And it's like, well, no, this is a festival for a publication, and they just invited a white nationalist to it. They're supposed to be a left-leaning publication, and they invited a white nationalist to it. This isn't an open town square. This is a festival for a particular outlet. And they invited Steve Bannon, which was a pretty bad move strategically. You know, if the anti-racist Action Punk Tour started up again, and they invited a bunch of bands, and one of them was a Nazi punk skinhead band, that would be very wrong. That would be very, very wrong. And if they said, well, we just want to expose different ideas, yeah, but you're supposed to be not that. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. That's a bad idea. That shouldn't be part of this. So, and I guess this Truth Dig piece is saying it's contemporary liberalism's worst idea yet. I think their worst idea is punching left. I think that's just as bad, if not worse, punching left. Well, let's see what you guys think. Dwayne says Bannon looks like he's on day 14 of a bacon cleanse. I like it. Speaking of days, I'm on day 2 of my Whole30 diet, and I gotta say, it's I'm feeling okay. Yesterday, I did not have enough energy to go to the gym, which bummed me out, but I did not have enough energy to go to the gym. So that was rough. And guys, keep tweeting the articles, by the way. Please keep tweeting me stuff. We still have room for things, and I'm going to go over to the Reddit here in a little bit. But first, this is from Susan. Media continues writing premature obituaries for the Democratic left. This is from Fair. And it's pointing out some unfair media coverage, as to be expected. So let's go over to the article so y'all can see it. That's Bernie Sanders. The insurgent left wing of the Democratic Party is sometimes self-identified as Democratic Socialists, are exemplified by rising star Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and associated with groups like Bernie Sanders, Our Revolution, the Justice Democrats, and the DSA. So these groups took some losses in primaries on August 7th. These included high-profile candidates like Abdul El-Sayed, a candidate for Michigan governor, and Brent Welder in Kansas's 2nd district, along with losses by Cori Bush in Missouri's 1st. Following the losses, corporate media outlets were quick to declare the Democratic left wing dead in the water. Bernie and his army are losing, down goes socialism, these are all the headlines. Democratic Party's liberal insurgency hits a wall in the Midwest. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez movement failed. Most candidates backed by, all right, far left is losing, socialist pinup, blah, blah, blah. You see all these headlines. Despite these eager obituaries, there were also plenty of wins for insurgent Democrats on August 7th. Democratic Socialist and Our Revolution candidate Rashida Tlaib won her primary in Michigan's 13th. Since she is running unopposed in the general election, she will become the first Palestinian-American woman in Congress. James Thompson also won the Democratic nomination in Kansas's 4th district and will face Ron S. in a tough race in a deep red district. Sarah Smith came in 2nd in Washington State's 9th. Progressive candidates also earned big wins in a number of state and local races. In Missouri, voters overwhelmingly approved a ballot measure to overturn the state's anti-union right-to-work laws. More wins for left-leaning candidates came the following week on August 14th. Somali refugee Omar, who won her primary in Minnesota's 5th district, will join Rashida Tlaib to become the first Muslim woman elected to Congress. Randy Bryce won his primary. Let's see. So it goes on to list some of the other wins. There were losses as well as wins in the August 14th primary. Let's see if they go all the way up to Massachusetts, because I know yesterday in Massachusetts there were some wins, there were some losses. So this is another piece, and it's really important that FAIR covers this. This is from August 28th, so it's been around a little bit. But this isn't the first piece like this. It won't be the last. And we know that there have been some wins, there have been some losses, as to be expected. Sometimes people come at me in the comments saying that because I express some wariness on Dem entering, that means that I consider everything a failure. And I've said time and time again, I'm happy when we have progressive victories, no matter what's next to their name. If a progressive wins, I'm happy about that. And I see it as a gain. Do I have some wariness towards Dem entering? Yes, I do. Because I'm worried that the infrastructure is so set up against us that it's going to end up coming back to bite us. And I wanted Bernie Sanders to start a third party. I understand he decided not to do that. So I'm dealing with the reality I'm faced with. Do I still have wariness towards Dem entering? Yes, I do. But I certainly understand the people running for office. I understand the conundrum they're in. So, and I also understand when the media tries to marginalize victories. And that's what they're doing here. There's going to be some victories. There's going to be some losses. And it's important to kind of just maintain the eye on the ball. But of course, the media, and this goes beyond just something like electoral politics. This is how the media responds to movements all the time. Whenever there is a social movement, whether it is Occupy, whether it is Black Lives Matter, whether it is a progressive entering of the Democratic Party, whether it is Students for the Democratic Society going back to the 60s, whether it is protesting the Vietnam War, you get the idea. No matter what it is, it always follows a cycle. First, they trivialize everything. They trivialize the movement. They make it out like it's nothing. Then they marginalize it. They antagonize it. Why do they do that? Why does the corporate media do this? Because nothing disrupts the status quo more than an effective social movement. Who is benefiting from the status quo? The corporate media. They did the same thing to Dapple. They did the same thing. I mean, you name it. The only exception to this is the Tea Party. And that's because the Tea Party wasn't a real grassroots movement. It was the Koch brothers funneling money into something. It was a Koch brothers wet dream. That's all that was. That's all that still is. So yeah, they're marginalizing any progressive victories. Why? Because that's what they do all the time. That's what the corporate media does. That is the anatomy of a social movement. And if you want to look more into that, there's a media theorist named Todd Gitlin I recommend you look into. So thanks for sharing that, Susan. It is important we keep our eye on this. This is not the first article like it. There will be many more. There will be many, many more. All right, let me go over to the Reddit now and see what's going on there. Sometimes our Reddit doesn't load properly, and sometimes I miss stuff, and I do apologize for that. All right, so this is election reform talk from World Peace. Let's see what this is all about. Well, this is interesting. So this is kind of about local politics, which is something that I think we should really be putting some energy into. Not just that, but also actual task forces. So this was posted over on the Reddit. Let's see what it's all about. Cities take aim at the spiraling cost of local elections. Big money is flooding into elections on the local level. Cities like Denver, Baltimore, and Portland, Oregon are some of the ones pushing back. It's well known that a run for a big office needs big money backing it, but up and down the ballot, budgets have been swelling, and not only in the U.S.'s largest cities, several localities, including Portland, Denver, and Baltimore, have initiatives in motion to overhaul the system either by driving down the dollar amounts each person can give or solicit, piloting public financing projects that make each donated dollar go further, or both. The overarching goal is to keep big money and its influence out of local politics and to give all candidates a fair shot. In Denver, voters will decide on an expansive reform package, including a contribution cap and a generous matching fund. Baltimore City Council has unanimously passed a charter amendment that would create a similar small dollar matching system, if Mayor Kathleen Pogue approves it and passes it along to the fall ballot. And before Portland, Oregon faces its own public financing measure in 2020, voters will decide on a strict local contribution cap this November. So it's interesting this is happening on the local level, and what I think maybe that's because people are realizing that's where real change truly does happen. I think our voting, and I always talk about how I always say that I'm pro-voting, but then I have an asterisk next to that where I say I think our voting priorities are completely ass backwards. The voting priorities in the United States, we go presidential, we put presidential up here. Whenever somebody says, if you didn't vote, you have no right to complain, they're referring to a presidential. That's what they're referring. Whenever somebody uses that sentiment, which, by the way, I do think that sentiment's bullshit. Even though I'm pro-voting, I think that sentiment's bullshit. Because whenever someone uses it, they're referring to presidential. They're not referring to school board or mayor or city council. They're not referring to that, or on an ordinance, or on a public transportation measure in your hometown. They're not referring. They're referring to presidential. Meanwhile, that's where your vote literally matters least. I vote all the time, no matter what. I know some of you do, some of you don't. I understand the perspectives for both, but I vote all the time. To my knowledge, have never missed an opportunity to vote as long as I've been legally able to. In every city I've lived in every election. Never missed an opportunity. There have been times where I've left stuff blank. Certain positions, especially like positions in the police force and stuff like that, like sheriff and stuff, where it's like, it's just, a bunch of cops. I know nothing about any of them. I'm not, who am I going to vote for? I mean, one of them's going to get the gig. I know nothing about them, so I don't vote. Like, I'll leave it blank. And if there are two candidates I honestly cannot justify voting for either one, I will leave it blank. I've left stuff blank before, but I've never not voted. Overall, I've filled out a ballot and voted on all the stuff I knew I wanted to vote for. So, and task forces do involve politics at the local level typically. Using myself as an example, I started a municipal internet task force here in Southern California. You guys know that. Local politics will likely be involved. We are going to need some people to run for city council, maybe even mayor. So there's that. So now you have dark money getting involved on the local level, which I'm sure it always has. But now either A, more people are paying attention, B, more money is going towards local elections, or C, a little bit of both. And I'm thinking, just kind of being, level-headed, it's probably a little bit of both. It's probably more people want to get involved locally, which is great. As a result, there's more corruption of money coming in, which is not great. But more people are paying attention, which is great. So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I hope some of you are going to run locally. Do it. Run local. And that's why, our priorities, again, it goes presidential first, midterm second, local third, or not at all. It should be the other way around. Completely. Local should be first. Look, you should never wait. It should be a national holiday. Or not national, because it's locals. You know what I meant by that. Total misspeak there, but you guys know what I meant. You should get the day off when it's time for you to go vote locally. Midterms, also very important. Presidential, still important. I vote in presidential. I always have. But if you had to rank them, it would go local, midterms, presidential. Not the other way around. And we do it completely the other way around. It goes presidential, midterm, local. Should be the other way around. Should be local, midterm, presidential. Those should be the priorities. Thank you for sharing that. That was a really cool thing. I dug it. All right. Let's get back to the stuff y'all are sending in. Media, continue. All right, we already did that one. All right, found the place. Sorry. Oh, wait, here we go. This is from Celeste. I'll give it a retweet, as I always do. So it looks like some progressives are angry at Chuck Schumer. Can't imagine why. What is he? Progressives turn their anger on Chuck Schumer over Brett Kavanaugh hearing. Activists want the Democratic leader to put pressure on conservative members of the caucus to oppose Trump's Supreme Court pick. Shouldn't he rally the Democrats to do everything they can do first? Progressive groups are becoming increasingly frustrated with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer saying he needs to do more to make every single Democrat senator vote against Brett Kavanaugh's okay, so they mean the more conservative Democrats. 13 progressive groups sent Schumer a letter on Wednesday morning telling him anything less than a unified caucus vote against Kavanaugh will be a massive failure of your leadership. And here's some information from the letter. Your job as Senate Democratic leader is to lead your caucus in complete opposition to Trump's attempted Supreme Court takeover and to defend everyone threatened by Trump's Supreme Court. But unbelievably, nearly 24 Democrats have still not come out against Kavanaugh. And just last week, you helped Majority Leader Mitch McConnell fast-track 15 Trump judicial nominees. This is not the leadership we need. This has been signed by Credo, Democracy for America, Indivisible, and Ultraviolet. Part of this frustration is when he agreed to expedite the confirmation of 15 of Trump's judicial nominees to lifetime federal court seats. The deal allowed Democratic senators to go home sooner for the Labor Day recess. We talked about that on this show. They wanted their vacation, so they fast-tracked 15 judges. Meanwhile, they go on TV 24 hours a day talking about how Trump's an unlawful president. He shouldn't be in the office. But they fast-track his judges. They fast-track his defense spending bills. They waffled on DACA. They're waffling now. And, you know, I'm glad these groups sent a letter to Chuck Schumer, but I got to say to all those groups, good morning. We've been here a while. The rest of us have been here a long time. Chuck Schumer's been a bad leader for a long time. Welcome to the party. We've got Russian mules. Or, excuse me, Moscow mules. I fucked up my own joke. It's early and I'm on a new diet. We've got Moscow mules. We've got white Russians. We've got black Russians. I went through a white Russian phase in college. I think a lot of us do. Because a lot of us watch the movie The Big Lebowski religiously. And then we're like, yeah, I drink white Russians. It's like, it's kind of like a milkshake and I like it. So you go through a white Russian phase. I used to make white Russians at parties a lot. Then I realized I'm a broke college kid and this is expensive. And honestly, it doesn't taste, you know, now I don't like dairy-esque alcoholic beverages. I prefer either just straight whiskey or a whiskey ginger. I guess I'm a whiskey guy. Yeah, I'm a whiskey guy. But I like that, or just beer. I'm a simple drinker when I drink. I'm not a fancy guy when I drink. Like, I don't get into... I can get into an old-fashioned if it's good and I like it. If it's too sweet, I can't get into it. But, you know, I'll go to these really... If I'm at, like, a really fancy, like, speakeasy-style place, I kind of like the vibe and ambiance of it, but I'm not super into the drinks. I'm kind of like, I'm happy with just a Jameson on the rocks. I'm a simple guy in that regard, I guess. But anyway, I went through a white Russian phase. And so, these groups, welcome to the party. Glad you could join us. We appreciate you being here. All right, we're going to switch gears a little bit here. And we're going to talk about intelligence, artificial intelligence. This is from Jordan. Five experts share what scares them the most about AI. Ooh. What should scare us the most is they're going to take over. Sophisticated AI could make the world a better place. It might let us fight cancer, improve healthcare around the world, or simply free us from the mental tasks that dominate our lives. That was the primary topic of conversation last month when engineers, investors, researchers, and policymakers got together at the Joint Multi-Conference on Human-Level Artificial Intelligence. But there was an undercurrent of fear that ran through some of the talks, too. Some people are anxious about losing their jobs to a robot or a line of code. Others fear a robot uprising. Where's the line between fear-mongering and legitimate concern? In an effort to separate the two, Futurism asked 5 AI experts at the conference about what they fear most about a future with advanced artificial intelligence. The responses below have been lightly edited. Oh man, dude, talk about building up suspense. Don't you want to know what they say? Holy shit. Check it out. Oh shit, I'm not gonna tell you. What do they say? What are they scared of? Is there gonna... Alright, it's a fun article. I'm sorry, I'm having a little... We're gonna get back to it. Come on. Would I really do that? Would I really be like, oh shit, to be continued? I'm becoming a drama series. What are they most scared of? And then you guys like, we're just gonna like read the link after the stream, Ron. What the fuck's wrong with you? Alright, here we go. Alright. So here's a question, and then here's the answer. When you think of what we can do and what we will be able to do with AI, what do you find most unsettling? Alright, so Kenneth Stanley, the professor at University of Central Florida, senior engineering manager and staff scientist at Uber AI Labs. That means it's a lab where they try to develop the best car sharing techniques. No, I'm sure it's not. Maybe it is. Who knows? Maybe Uber got to name the lab. Maybe Uber gave a bunch of money to the lab, and they were like, "Get a car that drives itself." Actually, that would make sense. I think that the most obvious concern is when AI is used to hurt people. There are a lot of different applications where you can imagine that happening. Wow, Kenneth Stanley. Do you encourage your students to give answers that vague? We have to be really careful about letting the bad side get out. What a lame... Wow, Kenneth. That's pretty freaking lame. Obviously interviews are not your strong suit. What if we use it to hurt people? Well, yeah, that's shitty. We gotta be careful of the bad stuff. Could you be more... I thought it was gonna be something like the robots could develop critical thinking, and if they do, they would be led to the obvious conclusion to destroy us, and then we're fucked. But he's just like, well, what if it hurts people? It might be bad. Kenneth, your answer sucks. I'm sure you're a brilliant dude. I mean, obviously, this is your job. You have like a sentence job description. Maybe Kenneth was just busy and he was like, I don't want to do this shitty interview. All technology can be used for bad. And I think I got to get Kenneth on the show. He'll be the most boring guest in the history of talk shows. All right, Kenneth, your answer sucks. All right, let's see if Irakli can knock this out of the park a little bit better. Now, Irakli Berids, I'm fucking up that name. That's the head of the Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics at Unicry over in the United Nations. I think the most dangerous thing with AI is its pace of development. Depending how quickly it will develop and how quickly we will be able to adapt to it. And if we lose that balance, we might get in trouble. So on terrorism, I think the dangerous applications for AI, from my point of view, would be criminals or large terrorist organizations using it to disrupt large processes. And of course, other things, other risks are things like job losses. Okay, much better answer. Interesting. This is the duality of technology. Certainly my conviction is that AI is not a weapon, it's a tool. And here's the thing, it's not going anywhere. Once it's here, it's not going anywhere. You have to adapt. Nicholas Carr writes about that in The Shallows, about adapting to technology. All right, John Langford, the principal researcher at Microsoft, let's see what he's got. I think we should watch out for drones. I think automated drones are potentially dangerous in a lot of ways. The computation of on-board unmanned weapons isn't efficient enough to do something useful right now, but in time for 10 years, I can imagine that a drone... All right. Interesting. I mean, we're already dropping drones. Have a Singleman. Every technology can be used for bad. All right, they're trying to be Kenneth here. All right, let's maybe they answered at the same time as Kenneth. I think it's in the hands of the ones that use it. I don't think there's a bad technology, but there will be bad people. All right, so Hava and Kenneth answered this question at the same time. Hava and Kenneth were like, Kenneth was like, well, it could be bad. And then Hava was like, yeah, totally, bad is what it could be. And they were like, is that all? And they're like, yeah, that's all we got. We're busy. We're doing science shit. Go away. We don't have time for interviews. Now, Thomas, on the other hand, he had some shit to say. Thomas is a research scientist at Facebook. When there's a lot of interest in funding around something, there's also people who are abusing it. I find it unsettling that some people are selling AI before we even make it and pretending to know what problem it would solve. Thomas has an issue with people selling stuff they shouldn't be selling, and he works at Facebook. Thomas, science background, can't necessarily teach irony. All right, these strange startups are also promising things that are some great AI examples when their systems are basically over-optimizing a single path. But come on, let's be honest. Many of the recent breakthroughs that I don't want to name, nobody cared before, and they're not generating any money. All right. All right, interesting. So wait, what is Thomas's deal? He's worried people are going to sell stuff they shouldn't be selling. That's why he's working at a company that's never done anything like that, Facebook. Cool. All right, some interesting answers there. Some shitty ones. Some pretty shitty ones. Scientists might not always give great interviews. I get it. It's fine, you know. Thank you for sharing that, Jordan. We all know what to worry about now with AI. Good shit is good. Bad shit, bad. Bad shit, bad. Bad. We don't want bad shit, man. We want them to do good stuff. All right. We got time for a few more here. So we're going to do it. This is from Celeste. I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do one more, and then I'm going to go to the comments, where you are going to be like, Ron, we're all bad robots. All of us, we're bad robots. We didn't want to tell you all at once, but we're all bad robots. And this goes into net neutrality, something we talk about quite frequently here. Telecoms have been throttling YouTube and Netflix since the demise of net neutrality. Even though it was happening to some degree before this year, the activity has picked up. The throttling has begun in earnest. According to a report from Bloomberg, based on the study from Northeastern University and the University of Massachusetts, telecom companies have taken advantage of the end of net neutrality to begin slowing delivery of video and data. If the practice continues and expands, it could cause consumers to watch or finish less video. In that case, competitions and ad exposures might be affected. The FCC passed... All right, so we all know that they passed net neutrality. We don't need to revisit all that. And we all know what's going on. Oh, okay, so that's it. All right. So we don't need to revisit everything that's going on with net neutrality in California. But Bloomberg released a study that they are, in fact, taking advantage of the end of net neutrality now, and they're slowing the delivery on Netflix and YouTube. Two of the behemoths that are in the net neutrality corner. Now, they're in the net neutrality corner because it affects their business model. They're not in the net neutrality corner because they care about a free and open internet or the exchange of ideas. They're in it for their own gain, but nonetheless, this is the time where we take a strange bedfellow. You know, like I've said before, we have the other 364 days a year to disagree on some things. And they bring up, we talked about this on the show too, they limited the data speeds for California firefighters who were fighting a wildfire in California. Verizon did that because of the repeal of net neutrality. They could do it. So they did it to people who were fighting wildfires. So yes, net neutrality has consequences. It has dire ones. And we've only seen the tip of the iceberg. They're already doing this, and they haven't even really begun to enact any post-net neutrality repeal packages. Because we're still fighting it. But even though we're still fighting it, they've already done this. So if we lose net neutrality completely and the fight's completely over, imagine what's going to happen. You're going to have to pay extra to access social media. Videos uploaded by independent content creators are going to go slow. For shows like this, it's going to be dial-up era. And some of you on the stream might be too young to even know what that refers to. Ask somebody in their 30s or beyond, and they'll tell you. Basically, it means internet really fucking slow. That's what it means. It'll be dial-up for stuff like this. And for stuff that can afford to pay the fee, like Netflix, it'll go faster. And that's the thing here. Once these big telecom giants don't have the business incentive to keep net neutrality, once them and the ISPs kind of combine forces, which they will do, we don't have our big allies anymore. That's why I'm trying to bring municipal internet to my community, and I encourage other people to do the same, because that's the permanent fix for net neutrality. I'm all about policy because that's how important this issue is. But we need a permanent fix. Otherwise, we're just going to keep doing this every 3 years. And eventually, we're going to lose. Hopefully, we don't lose this time. So, we need municipal internet. We needed it yesterday. But thanks for sharing that. And that's just another, for instance, of why we need it. All right, got time for one more. And I'm going to go to this. Let's go to something weird. This is from Occupy New Paradigm. And the new paradigm we're going to occupy for a few minutes here is about near-death experiences. Then I'll go to the chat, and then we're going to close. What happens when you die? We all wonder that all the time, but here's what happens. Scientists have created a near-death experience to find out what it feels like. What happens when you die? As she lay blindfolded in a seat in a dimly lit room, Anna came close to finding out. But Anna wasn't dying or even close to death when she entered what she described as an alternate realm. Instead, she was among 13 volunteers who had agreed to take the powerful hallucinogenic DMT for a study conducted by the Psychedelic Research Group at Imperial College London, UK. The researchers who watched Anna surf her consciousness in the low light of the research room at one of the world's most prestigious research institutions. This person got a dime every time they fit research into a sentence. That was the thing. They were like, here at Newsweek, if you fit research into a sentence like 5 times, you get an extra $15 for your article submission. All right, so they pumped the volunteers with DMT. DMT's trip is said to mimic the feeling of almost dying so accurately that those that take it describe hallucinogens that mirror near-death experiences. So they measured this. All right. And people just saw different visions. And they talk about some of the history. The hallucinogenic is better known as the main ingredient of, I don't know how to say that, the brew traditionally sipped in spiritual ceremonies of some indigenous peoples on the Amazon basin. In recent years, such rituals have also become popular with a sizable minority of Western tourists looking to expand their psychological horizons. The vine of the soul. So this research is taking place at a lab in the UK. It's also taking place on various beaches on the West Coast by people that bought DMT. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sharing. Got a new paradigm. Let me see what you guys are saying, and then we're going to dismount here. Some of you are saying that's a reach, saying DMT is like dying. I wouldn't know. I've never used it. Kyle says totally a stretch. I've never used it. Schultze wants to try it. Go for it. Balthazar, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. Thoughts on unopposed clause, where if you're running unopposed, you must get votes from 51% of your constituents. Also, thoughts on how long it would take to take over Dems. Those are a lot of questions. Running unopposed, I don't know. That's tough. That's a tough question because, if you're running unopposed, you're running unopposed. No one wants to run. So if you don't get 52%, like, what are you going to do? So I see that side of it. On the same hand, I do think that public opinion should matter when someone's elected. I've entertained notions of the idea of a vote of no confidence, where if people are so disgusted by both candidates, they have to kind of redo it. As far as how that would be implemented, tough to say, but I'm open to it. So I guess, open to it, want to hear more about the ideas. As far as how long would it take for progressives to take over the Democrats, I don't know if it's a possible feat. I really don't. And, again, I'm not trying to diminish the work of all the progressives that have decided to enter and have worked hard for it. I support them in their efforts. I vote for them when I can. And I want to see them win. Because whether it's a full takeover or not, having more progressives in office, no matter where they're at, helps. But I don't know if that's... There's just so many mechanisms in place. The biggest being superdelegates, the DCCC in general, that it's going to be a very hard feat. And so as far as the timeline, I don't know. I really don't. I don't think anyone can really predict that. If you bring DMT to Pittsburgh, I'll definitely try it with you, or I'll try it when available. You know, I don't know. I'm not a big... I mean, I'm not necessarily closed door to anything like that. It's not one of those things I'm in a rush to use. I've done mushrooms before, and you know, I use pot. So I guess I'm kind of an earthy guy. If it grows, I'm interested. You know, or at least there's some of the stuff that grows anyway. Daniel says it's a stupid experiment. Maybe it is. Yeah, I don't know what mechanism they use to determine like this is for sure a near-death experience. But it almost seems like it's kind of just a quick headline. But yeah. Peter Sellers. Austin has a Peter Sellers quote. When you've been killed as many times as I have, you get used to it. It's funny. DMT is all natural. Magnetic perturbation points out. I'm feeling peer pressure. No confidence votes are good, but they can be used for political games. It's a double-edged sword, Gardner points out. I'm sure it is. I mean, again, it's something I'm open to. I would need to kind of look more into it before I have something definitive to say about it. But I do see the value of potentially looking into something like that, whether it be people need to get a lot of votes if they're running unopposed or votes of no confidence, that sort of thing. Let's see here. No pressure, magnetic, reminds me. Brian's feeling the peer pressure, though. Shrooms, peyote, no reason for any of that to be illegal. Well, I do think that drugs should be legal. I do support that. You know, I think there are some... You know, the obvious exception that I think comes to my mind would be heroin. I'm not opposed to heroin being illegal. Again, there's people that know a lot more about drugs than I do that are better to talk on it. People that do, you know, cannabis-based shows that really know everything about psychedelic drugs and stuff like that. I'm not one of them. You know, I just... Probably because I'm not a big drug user, but, you know... But what are you going to do? Oh, Brian corrected. He's feeling the pleasure, not pressure. Daniel says DMT just puts you into REM sleep. Well, I don't have problems sleeping, so maybe... if that's all it does, maybe I should take a pass. Occupy New Paradigm points out that hard drugs prohibition causes too many problems. I agree. Chris says, I'm only for all drugs being legal because at least having them strictly regulated means less overdoses and problems. I do agree with that too. Yeah, again, like I'm not the biggest expert to say where the line should and shouldn't be drawn. I mean, I am for a significantly more expansive drug policy than what we have now, obviously. You know, I'm no expert on the topic, but I know that our drug policy now is light years beyond archaic. So, yeah. But as far as like the real nitty gritty, the real resin, if you will, there's people that are way more knowledgeable on that topic than myself. Guys, we are totally out of time. Thank you so much for being here. This has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. If you can support this show on the sustainability end, patreon.com/RonPlacone. Do it if you can. If you can. It's a pay-what-you-can level, and you get all kinds of exclusive content for as low as $1 a month. If you are able to, please do consider it. I'm really close to reaching my second goal, and with your help, I can get there. Yay! All right, we'll see how that poll ends. Maybe I'll be doing some comment videos in the future. We'll see. Tour dates, you know the drill. November 2nd, Sacramento, California. November 3rd, San Francisco, California. November 17th, Santa Barbara, California. And November 23rd, I will be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And guys, it has not been confirmed yet, but Austin, Texas, I might be coming. Still working out the details, but Austin, Texas, I might be coming. I love you all very much. Thank you so much for being part of this. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll be there. Thank you very much for being part of this. Peace.